The Florida sun was just beginning to warm Mar-a-Lago's sprawling lawns, casting a golden glow over the palm trees and the ornate mansion. It was the kind of morning that promised calm, a sense of luxury and routine that had become synonymous with Donald Trump's post-presidential life. Inside, Trump was likely savoring his usual morning rituals, perhaps a newspaper, a cup of coffee, and the quiet hum of distant staff, when the sharp ring of the phone cut through the tranquility. On the other end, a top advisor's voice was tense. The subject: Canada. Energy. A seismic shift was underway, a massive pivot away from the United States that no one had seen coming. Ottawa had just announced landmark deals to export its oil and natural gas, not to its southern neighbor as tradition dictated, but across the Atlantic and Pacific, to Europe and Asia. The world's energy map was being redrawn in real time. The quiet, reliable neighbor to the north was suddenly rewriting the rules of engagement, signaling a new era in North American relations. For Trump, this was more than just a policy change. It was a direct challenge to American influence, a personal affront that struck at the heart of his vision for U.S. dominance. The advisor could sense the magnitude of the shift. This wasn't just about barrels of oil or cubic feet of gas. It was about respect, leverage, and the balance of power on the continent. The Canadian Prime Minister, flanked by diplomats and energy executives, addressed the world. He spoke of energy security, new horizons, and a future where Canada charted its own course, no longer tethered to American interests. The real message was unmistakable. Canada was declaring its independence from decades of U.S. energy dominance, stepping boldly onto the global stage. Pipelines that once fed America's insatiable appetite for energy might soon slow to a trickle, or even run dry as Canada looked elsewhere for its customers. For the United States, this was nothing short of a political bombshell. Newsrooms buzzed, analysts scrambled, and lawmakers braced for the fallout. The silence on the line was heavy, thick with the weight of what had just transpired. Trump's mind raced, calculating the implications, searching for a response. This was a story of betrayal, a narrative he'd be eager to seize, to shape, and to share with his supporters. The sense of being blindsided would fuel his rhetoric in the days to come. The Mar-a-Lago morning, once peaceful and predictable, was now officially ruined. The day's agenda had been upended by forces beyond his control. The quiet partnership between the U.S. and Canada was about to erupt into a very public, very contentious dispute, one that would reshape the future of energy, diplomacy, and power on the continent. So, what's Canada's pivot really about? In short, diversification. For decades, most Canadian oil and gas flowed south to the U.S., a simple, profitable arrangement. Now, Ottawa has signed major long-term contracts with Europe and Asia. New LNG terminals on both coasts are being fast-tracked, along with pipelines to reach them. This is a fundamental reorientation of Canada's energy export strategy. The government frames it as global responsibility, helping allies and fueling new economies. But it's also about economics. Canadian producers want global prices, not U.S. discounts. Years of U.S. political delays, especially Keystone XL's cancellation, left scars. Canada's answer: control its own destiny, build global infrastructure, and declare independence from Washington's whims. The message: Canada is open for business, with the world. The North American energy landscape has changed forever. To grasp the shock, look at the history. The U.S.-Canada energy relationship was a deep, integrated partnership, nearly a century old. Millions of American homes and cars have relied on Canadian oil and gas. Over 98% of Canada's crude exports went to America, creating mutual dependency. U.S. refineries were built for Canadian oil. Switching isn't easy. This integration was celebrated as a model of cooperation, transcending politics. The system was designed for north-south flow. Little infrastructure existed for east or west. The assumption, America would always be the destination, that's now shattered. Canada is the U.S.'s largest foreign energy supplier, millions of barrels and billions of cubic feet daily. This isn't just business, it's a seismic shift in a relationship once thought unbreakable. Canada's pivot feels less like a business move, more like a divorce. To truly grasp why Canada made its recent decision, you have to go back to the long, painful saga of the Keystone XL pipeline. This project wasn't just another pipeline, it became a symbol of hope, frustration, and ultimately, a deep wound that never fully healed. For Canada, Keystone XL represented the future, a secure direct export route to the massive U.S. energy market. Billions were invested and entire communities pinned their economic hopes on its success. But south of the border, the project quickly turned into a political football. Environmental protests erupted, and the pipeline became a lightning rod for debates about climate change, energy security, and national priorities. The fate of Keystone XL swung wildly with each new U.S. administration, approved by one president, rejected by the next, revived again, and then ultimately cancelled. Each reversal sent shockwaves through Canada's energy sector. When President Biden finally cancelled the project for good, it was more than just a policy setback. For Canada, it was the breaking point, a moment that felt like a profound betrayal after years of investment and trust. The cancellation left behind not just abandoned equipment but a sense of loss and anger. Years of effort, billions of dollars, and the promise of partnership, all undone by shifting U.S. politics. The message was clear: America could no longer be counted on as a reliable partner. The relationship, once built on trust, now felt uncertain and fragile. In Ottawa, the scar from Keystone XL runs deep. The experience forced a painful reckoning about Canada's dependence on a single customer. Policymakers realized that putting all their eggs in one basket was a strategic error. The risks of relying on the U.S. for energy exports had become impossible to ignore. The cancellation became a wake-up call, pushing Canada to take diversification seriously. New pipelines, new export terminals, and new markets became urgent priorities. Now, Canada is determined to reach new markets and build new partnerships, no longer willing to let its future be dictated by decisions made in Washington. The frustration and disappointment of Keystone XL still linger, but they have fueled a new resolve within Canada's energy sector. Today, Canada is more determined than ever to protect its interests and never be so vulnerable again. The wound left by Keystone XL changed everything, and its lessons continue to shape Canada's path forward. Canada's announcement hit Americans where it hurts, their wallets. Energy markets spiked, oil and gas prices surged. For consumers, that means higher prices at the pump and for home heating. With Canadian oil possibly diverted, the U.S. faces a tighter, pricier supply. Industries from manufacturing to agriculture feel the squeeze. Inflation risks rise and political pressure mounts on Washington. Refineries built for Canadian crude now scramble for alternatives. The U.S. may have to compete globally for energy, losing its security cushion. Canada's move injects uncertainty and forces a costly transition. The era of cheap, reliable Canadian energy is over. In Calgary, engineer Sarah feels hope. We're finally taking control, selling at global prices. Years of selling at a discount to a fickle U.S. are over. Across the border in Detroit, David, a retired auto worker, is frustrated. Canada's our neighbor. Why send oil to Europe? For many Americans, the energy partnership was a given, now it's gone. In Vancouver, activist Liam worries, this isn't a pivot from oil just to new customers. We should invest in renewables. The debate in Canada is fierce economic opportunity versus climate responsibility. In Houston, trader Maria is blunt. We treated Canada like a backyard oil field. Now we're paying the price. For industry insiders, Canada's move was predictable, a reaction to years of U.S. policy. The signs were there, America just didn't see them. Canada's pivot is no accident, it's a calculated response. The moment the news broke, Trump's reaction was immediate and explosive. He didn't wait for a press conference or a carefully crafted statement. Instead, he went straight to his favorite platform, Truth Social, where his followers were already buzzing with anticipation. In a flurry of all-caps posts, Trump declared, "Canada stabs us in the back." He wasted no time blaming both Trudeau and Biden, painting them as villains in a high-stakes drama. Trump insisted that the cancellation of the Keystone XL pipeline was at the heart of the problem, claiming that if he were in charge, this crisis would never have happened. He promised his followers that he would fix it on day one if given the chance. The posts didn't stop there. Trump unleashed a barrage of personal attacks accusing his opponents of weakness and incompetence. He doubled down on his vow to restore American energy dominance, promising a return to what he called real leadership. When speaking to reporters, Trump didn't hold back. "Canada's leadership is a joke. We have all the leverage. Things will be different when I'm back," he declared, his tone both defiant and confident. He took a complex, nuanced international dispute and boiled it down to a simple story of betrayal and incompetence, making it easy for his supporters to rally behind him. For his base, the message was crystal clear: America was being taken advantage of, and only Trump had the strength and resolve to set things right. The narrative struck a nerve. With gas prices rising and concerns about energy security growing, many Americans felt a sense of loss and frustration, convinced that the country was being wronged by its closest ally. Trump wasn't interested in the finer details or diplomatic nuance. He saw a powerful political opportunity and seized it with both hands. The drama unfolded in real time, with every post and statement fueling outrage, dominating headlines, and rallying his supporters to his cause. For Trump, this wasn't just another news cycle. It was personal, and it was political gold, energizing his campaign like few issues could. The energy dispute quickly became a central weapon in his campaign arsenal, featured in speeches, ads, and social media blitzes. The message was hammered home at every rally and event. Only Trump could restore American strength, security, and pride. The public dispute grew louder and more emotional, sparking heated debates on cable news and even protests on both sides of the border. The U.S. Canada relationship, once seen as unbreakable, now felt more strained than ever, with no easy resolution in sight. In Washington, Canada's move triggered a diplomatic scramble. Officials were caught off guard. Calls to Ottawa were tense. The Canadian response: "The deals are done, this is permanent." The White House faced attacks from all sides, accused of weakness and indecision. Behind the scenes, U.S. diplomats and cabinet secretaries tried to find leverage but found little. Canada, scarred by Keystone XL, was acting in its own interest. The power dynamic had shifted. Canada now had options. Washington was forced to rethink its approach to its northern neighbor. The era of easy energy diplomacy was over. The relationship had entered a deep freeze. What does the future hold? For Americans, higher and more volatile energy prices are the new normal. The era of cheap, secure Canadian energy is gone, replaced by global uncertainty. For Canadians, there's opportunity, higher revenues, national pride, but also risk, as their economy is now tied to global markets. Internal debates over climate and energy will intensify. The U.S. must now treat Canada as a strategic competitor, not just an ally. Diplomacy will be more cautious, more transactional. The special relationship has been fundamentally redefined. Canada acted to protect its interests. The U.S. must now adapt. For citizens on both sides, the consequences will be felt for years. In energy bills, jobs, and national identity, the ground has shifted beneath North America's feet.